Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we love powering you with helpful information. In this case, we're diving into diabetes. We're honored to have with us Lynn Ward, Director of Wellbeing and Lifestyle Management, and Kent Stoneking, Director of Diabetes Education and Self-Management Services with AM Diabetes Centers of America. How are you two doing?
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for having us. I am thrilled to be here with you today.
Hey, Jeremy. Thanks again. Really enjoy being with you. Enjoy what you're doing, and just so glad to be able to share our story with you today.
Absolutely. Well, you all are doing tremendous good, and so we're going to dive in, but let's start with diabetes and the prevalence. When you look at it nationally and then obviously locally, Kent, let's go ahead and start out. Talk about the prevalence of diabetes.
Absolutely. So diabetes comes in two flavors. There's type 1 and type 2. 90 to 95% of people with diabetes have type 2. The national prevalence is around 11% right now, but in the Memphis Mid-South area, we're considerably higher than that. And there are a number of reasons that that's the case, but across Tennessee, we're more like 14%, and then Mississippi, just to the south of us, is 15%. So we're kind of, maybe say, that maybe 14.5, if you will, kind of in the Memphis area. We have more than enough diabetes to go around here for sure.
Lynn, touch on prediabetes.
Yes, right. Prediabetes is a real problem. There are 96 million people in our country with prediabetes, and most don't even know that they have it. And the thing about it, before someone is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they almost always have prediabetes. And there's something we can do about it. And that's part of our work, prevention and management.
Talk about what diabetes is, because I think that's, obviously raising awareness. And so when you talk about the prevalence, but talk about what diabetes is.
Sure, I'd be happy to. There's a lot of misunderstanding there, Jeremy. People say, well, it's just a touch of sugar, and that's not the case. I'll begin with the type 1s. I'm a type 1. I've had type 1 for over 44 years, and very thankful to have good care and still enjoy good health. But type 1 is really offset by an autoimmune process that destroys the beta cells in the pancreas. Those are the cells that make insulin. And insulin is the hormone that moves glucose from our bloodstream. It's our body's number one source of metabolic fuel, but it's got to move from the bloodstream into the cells to be utilized. Then insulin unlocks the doors to those cells so that dynamic can occur. So with no insulin production, we have type 1 diabetes. And so that's why type 1 is only treated by insulin. Type 2 is very different. And really, it's interesting that they call both conditions diabetes. Really boils down to the commonality of difficulty in metabolizing glucose and secondarily fats for energy. But type 2 is more of a progressive condition. It begins with the cells just not responding to the body's own insulin. We call that insulin resistance. And then as insulin resistance mounts, insulin production tries to mount to keep pace, but eventually resistance outpaces the body's ability to overproduce insulin. And at that point, insulin production begins to wane, and we see blood glucose levels begin to rise. And then there are a number of treatments for type 2. Many of them are oral tablets, capsules, some injectable medications that are not insulin that are very effective. Names on everyone's lips these days are like Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro, so that there's a role for those in type 2 patients. The great thing is that we can detect the onset of type 2 diabetes, and doctors for generations have used the term borderline. Well, there's not really a borderline diabetes any more than there's a borderline pregnancy. It either is or isn't, but we can see diabetes emerging, and so we call that prediabetes. Blood glucose levels that are a little bit off the mark usually goes along with overweight or obesity. So managing weight, eating properly, physical activity, some of those just general health components being done on a consistent basis can go a long way in preventing diabetes.
And we'll definitely touch on those in greater detail in terms of the tips and the wellness and well-being and pieces. Touch on, when you talk about AM Diabetes Centers of America, give us some context organizationally, and then we'll dive in deeper.
Certainly. So we are a premier endocrinology practice. Dr. Kashif Latif is our medical director, and he's been here in the greater Memphis area for over 20 years, treating people with diabetes and thyroid disorders and so forth. But diabetes is really near and dear to his heart because his oldest son was diagnosed as an 11-month-old. In fact, Dr. Latif pivoted his practice from primary care up in the Brownsville area to diabetes, and then moved towards Memphis because we have so much more diabetes here. but premier endocrinology practice, the best medical care for diabetes you'll find anywhere. But one of the things that Dr. Latif makes a very high priority is education. And it's sad, Jeremy. There used to be diabetes education programs all over the place, and there are very few now. And so there's a common statistic out there that about 95% of people who have diabetes never attend a diabetes education program, meaning they're never taught the basic principles of what diabetes is, the things that we're discussing right here, or how to treat it appropriately. And it isn't rocket science. I mean, if it were rocket science, I couldn't do it. But we have a few basic things that are fairly simple to do. If they're done the right way on a consistent basis, can go a long way for people with diabetes to prevent complications. And that's really the end game. People with diabetes don't die from diabetes, they die from complications of diabetes. And it's not sudden, it's long, it's progressive, it's pretty hideous. Diabetes is the leading cause of new cases of blindness every year in the United States, primary cause of kidney failure, people going on dialysis, requiring kidney transplants. The neuropathy that affects people with diabetes, the numbness and tingling and pain down in the feet and legs, many times will lead to a non-traumatic limb amputation, usually with an infection that leads up to that, gangrene, getting into the bone tissue, and then an amputation. Heart disease, people with type 2 diabetes are very susceptible to strokes and heart attacks, and even strokes. So pretty much anywhere where blood flows, diabetes can complicate blood flow and then affect those end organs.
This will lead us into the education component, but talk about where it starts. So when someone says, hey, I want to step in, and I imagine like the assessments, the tests, where does it begin with someone stepping in and figuring out, okay, this journey, what is it going to look like with you all?
Sure. So when people are referred to AM Diabetes Centers of America, the point of entry is education. And that's Dr. Latif's, again, that's his priority. He's told me as director of education, he says, I don't want to see anyone in my clinic that you haven't already trained in class, because they'll come to the class and we'll talk about the why, are we doing these things and how do we do these things correctly? And then by the time they come to clinic and see Dr. Latif, he says, okay, here's the what. You do this, that, and this. And they're like, oh, okay, we've already heard that. And we understand contextually why that matters. And patients that understand their health conditions, whether it's diabetes or anything else, are far more likely to perform the steps that are required to care for that condition. Not knowing, they have no form of no context, they have no sense of priority. Why does this matter to my health? Why should I do this? It's inconvenient. I have to change my routine. They're very unlikely to do the right things because they've never been shown and they have no idea why it matters. So we begin there.
And finding out what the condition is and finding out their lab values is really important. It is the starting point. So if someone suspects their glucose might be higher than it should be, they can find that out. Their physician may refer them to our program. And it's not only education. We want to start with education. We want to also get them involved. Hold their hand, let them see our activities, and add in the physical fitness, add in the stress reduction, all of the programs that we offer around nutrition guidance with our dietitians, all of our components of care. But that first entry is understanding that there could be a potential problem. And there are several risk factors for diabetes. If someone is overweight, that is a risk factor. It isn't the only risk factor, because someone without a weight concern could still be at risk for developing type 2 diabetes. But aging is a factor and inactivity is a factor. A lot of key components that we wrap education around for educating and managing diabetes, and then for the entire diabetes prevention program that we offer.
Let's carry that more into your world, Lynn, because when you talk about nutrition, exercise, that's all right in your wheelhouse. So talk about it from that vantage point on your end of putting together an individualized plan for success with the individuals.
I'm glad you used the word individualized. We love individualized and personalized care with our components of care, looking at behavioral health, physical fitness, stress reduction, nutrition guidance. All of those components will make up the whole person. And so strong, accurate clinical guidance coupled with, let's go get some exercise right now. and let's learn how to manage our stress, reduce our stress. For years, I've never said stress reduction. I've always called it stress management. We are implementing tools that are truly helping people reduce their stress. And it's really exciting to see the improvements across the board. And that's where the prevention program utilizes these key components.
Give us one of your favorite tips, and we'll leave it broad on both sides for each of you, but let's start on your end. Give us one of your favorite tips or recommendations out there when it comes to prevention management. You have free flow access, whichever direction you want to go, but give us your favorite tip or recommendation, or a favorite tip or recommendation.
All right. Well, that's what do I choose? Because there's so many great things. As a firm believer in education and as having benefited from education, for years, let's just keep it very simple. What if somebody just took medication and the doctor said, okay, go exercise and eat right, and they have no other guidance? How are they going to know if the things that they're doing, if the things they're doing are working for them? Blood glucose management, blood glucose monitoring. We've had the finger stick meters out there for generations. They're great. They're accurate. They're easy. They've never been easier. But now we have the continuous glucose monitors, the Dexcoms, the Freestyle Libres. There'll be others hitting the market soon. People without diabetes are wearing these just to monitor it. Elite athletes are wearing them to monitor the impact of certain foods and certain workouts on blood glucose values. So, the science is there. These are very accurate devices, and monitoring blood glucose is the key. And I'll tell people, I say, you can get started on whatever regimen your doctor puts you on. Monitor your blood glucose yourself, because you'll be the first to know if what your doctor has prescribed or what you're doing is working or not. And those blood glucose numbers will tell the tale.
Is it possible, and then we'll bounce to you, Lynn, but is it possible if someone is, I know you said, there's no such thing necessarily as borderline, but if someone is on that kind of that balancing beam and they get themselves in better health and better shape and eat, the right things on the nutrition side, can they pull themselves back, out of it? Or is it one of those where they're going to, from that point forward, always be walking that balance beam?
I think we're all walking the balance beam, but we can reduce those numbers and get our A1C into a normal range. So we are able to do that with some lifestyle factors. And my tips would be to get moving, stay active, look at your nutrition with the fiber that you're taking in and your sugar amounts, as well as managing stress. The National DPP, Diabetes Prevention Program, is a year-long program that we work with people for an entire year to make these changes. Because if it was super easy, we all would already be doing it. But there are a lot of factors that fight against us, and we want to meet people where they are in their preferences and make slow changes over the year for sustainability and to keep those numbers decreasing.
Yeah, and I think just like anything, is education is the key, but it's also too, it's small changes. So it's not a complete overhaul, right from the get-go, although in some cases that, could be necessary, but it's small changes to completely shift your lifestyle and make the changes necessary so it's sustainable, but you pull from over here to completely over here by doing all the right things. And that goes back to education. It goes back to the support network and the expertise and the guidance, the structure. All of that plays a vital role in creating success. Kent, what puts a smile on your face when you look at, obviously, as we talked about the prevalence, but most importantly, your ability to step in and create success for the individuals, for their family, what that means for the health of not just them, but for their family. What puts a smile on your face when you think about the impact you're having?
It's so gratifying, Jeremy, just to see people improve their health. We talk about diabetes education, but really the goal is empowerment. So if you come to our class, we're going to provide you a lot of information, but at the end of that, we're handing you the keys. We're saying, all right, Jeremy, this is your diabetes. It's not mine. We're here to support you. We're here to help you, but we want to empower you to manage it on your own. And based on what we've given you and being there to help guide that process, we've set you up for success, but we want to see you succeed. So what makes me smile is seeing someone come back, 2-3 months later, having made tremendous improvements in their blood glucose, they're getting it, they're taking their medication on a regular basis, they're starting to make better eating choices. As Lynn mentioned, they're getting active or getting more active, all those necessary components. They have family members that they're sharing that with. In fact, one of the greatest things is to come into our classes and to see a spouse or a best friend or someone that's a sibling that comes with that person. I love having a second set of ears. And I'll tell the person who's come with diabetes to say, this person next to you is a huge advocate. They're your biggest fan, and they're going to be your accountability partner, but they're going to hear the same things today that you're going to hear and help you stay on track. So love to see the families get involved and to see people owning it and to realize that it's not as daunting or as perhaps debilitating as it might be otherwise. And I've seen literally thousands of people that go to their primary care doctor, and I'm a pharmacist by training. And so working in community pharmacy for years, I'd see them walk in with this dumbfounded look on their face. They've got their first prescription for insulin. They've got a prescription for a blood glucose monitor and test strips and all the other stuff that goes along with it, or maybe some oral medications, whatever. And they're in shell shock. And I'll fill the prescriptions and say, okay, explain, here's how you use these. But I tell them, you owe it to yourself to go to a diabetes education class. And now that we're running these classes, we're able to provide that necessary training so that they can leverage the medications and the monitoring equipment and the meal plans and all the things that we provide to their greatest advantage. And as Lynn mentioned, it's a very individualized phenomenon. No two people are alike, but everyone can succeed with this. And so it makes me smile just to help get each person to that point.
Yeah, I love it. We'll wrap up with where we go to carry these conversations forward. So website, contact information, where do we go?
So our website is amdiabetescoa.com. We can be contacted at education@amdiabetescoa.com. And Lynn, yours?
Yes, education@amdiabetescoa.com, and find us in the Bartlett Clinic and our location in Memphis as well. And what puts a smile on my face, I just have to add it, is when I hear people say they hear our voices in their head. They think about their choices, and they say that they've carved out that their snack cabinet looks different nowadays. I think that's so fun. I wanted to throw that in, but we can be found on social media as well. Find us at AM Diabetes Centers of America and AMD 360.
Well, I agree. It's all about making healthy choices. And so greatly appreciate your ability to help everyone make healthy choices and transform their lives and the process. So Kent, Lynn, thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. So good being here.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.